Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I hope you are doing very well today. This is a friendly reminder that this Sunday, June 9th, 2019, 6 a.m. Tokyo time. Again, Sunday, June 9th, 2019, 6 a.m. Tokyo time. I will be holding the next film club live stream where I hope to talk to you and listen to your comments and your thoughts and opinions about this film here, Picnic at Hanging Rock. Picnic at Hanging Rock. So this is a 1975 film directed by Peter Weir, and it's based on a novel written by Joan Lindsay. Picnic at Hanging Rock. So again, this is scheduled for Sunday, June 9th, 2019, 6 a.m. Tokyo time. So I know there's a time difference for those of you who are outside of Japan, so please check the time where you are in your locality, and I hope to see you then. I will be talking about this film in some detail with you, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say in the live chat. So if you haven't seen the film, you still have a little bit of time left, and it's not such a long film. I think it's less than 2 hours, so hopefully if you haven't seen it yet and you're interested in joining the live stream, please watch the film if you have a chance. If you cannot join the live stream, of course, the actual live stream itself will be then uploaded onto YouTube in a video, and then you can watch at your own pace and leisure. In any event, I hope to see you, and if you want to leave a comment after the fact, of course, please feel free to do so. I don't declare to be an expert in Australian cinema, and I don't declare to be an expert at all in this film, Picnic at Hanging Rock, but I do really enjoy this film, and I will be talking about this film as it's presented in the Criterion Collection. Just to go over the Criterion Collection itself, the release itself, this is the dual format edition, which I have, which has the two Blu-ray and the DVD version of the director's cut, and I'll go over that in a minute. Director's cut is 107 minutes, and this is dual format, which means that it also comes with the novel, the Joan Lindsay novel. Now I have the novel in another form right here, and so it's a very excellent book. It goes by very quickly. So if you're interested in reading it, I highly recommend it. You don't have to read it in time for the live stream. I won't necessarily be going into detail about the book, but if you are inclined to do so, I highly recommend it. It's a very, very engaging book, and it goes by so quickly. So there is the book, and here is the Criterion Collection edition right here. As far as the Criterion release is concerned, so this has this is the director's cut, and only the director's cut. So this is the 107-minute version, which is a high-def digital film transfer with 5.1 surround DTS HD master audio for the Blu-ray. And then there's also an interview with Peter Weir, and then there is a making of documentary that uses interviews of the various cast and crew that were shot in 2003, and it edits those together. So you have, for instance, the producers interviewed. You also have Helen Morse and Anne Lambert interviewed. So it's a very interesting documentary, but more on that in a second. And then you have a new introduction by film scholar David Thompson, which is, I think, an interesting introduction. It's short, but he tries to frame it in the context of Australian cinema, and also points out certain aspects of the film that are worth mentioning in terms of the imagery, the dream quality of the imagery, this idea of the kind of the hypnotic quality of the way in which the images are handled and gathered to form this film, as well as other interesting comments and observations to make. And then there is an on-set documentary called A Recollection, Hanging Rock 1900. Now this documentary is from 1975, so it's sort of like an on-set documentary. Again, very interesting. And then there is the short film from 1971 that Weir made called Holmesdale. And this is a very surprisingly good short film. I really enjoyed it. It's described as a black comedy, so it's very, very good. And I'm glad I'd never seen it before this particular release, so I was very glad to have been able to see it. And then there is the booklet, which is included here, not the novel, but the extra booklet as well. And this has, I believe, 2 essays, one called What We See and What We Seem. This is by Megan Abbott, and it's talking about the aspects of the film specifically. Very excellent essay talking about the specifics of this film. I would recommend that you read this prior to the Livestream Film Club, because this is very good. Megan Abbott has some incredibly insightful observations to make about this film. Very important, very key. So that's the essays What We See and What We Seem by Megan Abbott. Next is Peter Weir and the Australian New Wave, which is an excerpt by Mark Halthoff, and it's an excerpt from the book Peter Weir, When Cultures Collide. Now this is great because it puts the film and Peter Weir's career sort of in the context of Australian cinema at this time, so the 1970s. Very informative, especially for me, who is not an expert in Australian cinema. So this is a great essay, a wonderful sort of primer, if you will, on Australian cinema of the 1970s. And of course, Picnic and Hanging Rock figures into that in a very interesting and peculiar way. A well-written excerpt. So these are the 2 essays that are included in the book. Well done, Criterion. And I should say something about this Criterion release, though, before we continue. I really love this Criterion release very much, but I think it doesn't get a full 100% score from me if I were to give it a score. And that's because it doesn't include the original version of the film. It includes only the director's cut. Now, if you're looking for the original version is a little bit longer, and it is right here. It is included in this particular release, which is the Second Sight DVD 3-disc release of Picnic at Hanging Rock. And this is Second Sight, so it's from the UK. So this has disc 1, which is the director's cut, and then disc 2, which is the longer original version. Because remember, we had the original version, but then the director's cut excised certain scenes from the original version. So in fact, the director's cut, which is now on the Criterion version, the release, is shorter than the original release version. So there are certain subplots of the original version that are excised from the film in order to create the director's version. So what you're getting, in fact, with the director's version is a shorter work. Now, it's up to you to decide which is a better presentation of this particular story, the original version, which is a little bit longer, or the director's cut, which is a little bit shorter. Not by much, but just a little bit. But I think for those who are fans of this film, Picnic at Hanging Rock, I think it's a very interesting, it's a very interesting thing to try to watch the original version. And I think it's really worth trying to find and to watch and to compare. Very interesting indeed. I'm a little bit disappointed the Criterion Collection release didn't necessarily go into the details with respect to the original version versus the newer director's cut version. I don't think there are any deleted scenes or anything like that. I don't think there's any discussion specifically about the differences in the versions. If the Criterion Collection could have done anything, at the very least, I wish there could have been some discussion about the differences between the two versions, but oh well, c'est la vie. If you're looking for such a discussion, I would suggest going for the Second Sight DVD 3-disc set, and because it's really worth it. Just for your information, so it has 3 discs. The first disc, as I said, being the director's cut, which is the same as the Criterion release. The second disc being the original version, which is not found on the Criterion release. And then the third disc has a lot of features. So you have the Recollection Hanging Rock 1900, which is the same 1975 on-set documentary that's also found here. And then what you have, which is different, is you have a Joan Lindsay interview, which is different. Then you have an audio interview with the actor Karen Robson, who plays the character Irma. And then you have a tour of the principal locations, which is called Hanging Rock and Martindale Hall, then and now. Martindale Hall being the place where they shot the exteriors. That was the school. So a very, very interesting building. And then there is a there's a film called The Day of St. Valentine, which is the first screen adaptation of the novel made in 1969. Very interesting work. And then the scenes deleted from the director's cut, and stills and poster gallery. Then there is a documentary called A Dream Within a Dream, which is 113 minutes. The documentary that is here is based on the same 2003 interview footage that was the basis for the making of documentary that is found in the Criterion Collection special features. But the editing is different, and they've used different portions of the interviews. Some of them overlap, but it's basically the source material is the same for both documentaries, but the editing and the final presentation is different. So what you're in fact getting you're getting 2 separate documentaries based on the same source material. It's very interesting. And in fact, I would say that the Criterion Collection documentary version is not as good as the documentary that is found here, A Dream Within a Dream. Again, the basic source footage is the same, but this one goes into a lot more detail about the production, about certain stories and behind-the-scenes detail. It also goes into the issues with respect to the original version versus director's cut version. It also goes into some detail about planned endings that were never finalized. Very, very interesting stuff. And there are it's not the official ending, but there were other concepts that were considered for the ending of the film that are discussed in these special features here that isn't referred to in the Criterion Collection release. So if you're looking for a kind of a fuller experience with respect to getting the details, the behind-the-scene details of this film, I would strongly suggest trying to get the Second Sight 3-disc DVD. Now, this is from the UK, so it's probably going to be zone locked, region or zone locked. So be sure that you have an appropriate player on which to play this. But as long as you have that, then I strongly recommend getting this. Very, very worthwhile for those of you who are strong fans of Picnic at Hanging Rock. And so, but there's nothing wrong with just having the Criterion release. I mean, the Criterion release is fantastic the way it is. And so what I plan to do is I will focus on the Criterion release on the live stream, and therefore I will focus on the director's cut. And I will try not to talk in too much detail about the original cut, so I will avoid doing that. I don't think it's absolutely necessary. I think a discussion of the director's cut is going to present a full enough discussion in terms of the film and what I think the film is trying to aim for. So in the live stream discussion, some themes and some things I hope to talk to you about and to get your opinions on are, for example, how does the film create the sense of mystery? What are some elements in the filmmaking craft and the cinematic craft that you identify that create the sense of mystery? What are some of the ways in which clues are layered into the work in order to create this mystery, this veiled mystery that's wrapped around a haze of fog and sunshine and mist and smoke. What are some elements of the film that you think are, in particular, quite artistically successful? These can be visual representations of things. These can be audio or musical representations of things. They can be a combination of the two. They can be other aspects, of course. Are there any specific characters that you think are worth mentioning? Of course, there are many characters here, and I think all the characters are, in one way or another, and in their own specific way, affected by the events of this film as they unfold throughout the course of the film. And so I'm very curious to hear your thoughts about what characters in particular you think are worth mentioning. There's also this idea of what is the notion of film narrative and one's expectations when one is watching a film? In other words, how do you react to a film when a film doesn't necessarily obey the standard laws of narrative? And how does one react to that? Is one willing to submit to the film, or does one struggle, and does one resist that? I'm curious to know your reactions and your initial impressions of this film, especially considering the fact that I think the narrative plays a very important part in how one's reactions are formed. And I don't want to go into too much detail. I'm trying to be as vague as possible. But for those of you who have seen the film, I think you know what it is I'm trying to refer to. And there are other aspects that I hope to get into, because this is, as I say, a very fascinating work. But once again, if you are interested, please feel free to join us. The next live stream film club chat on Picnic at Hanging Rock, the director's cut, is going to be Sunday, June 9th, 2019, 6 a.m. Tokyo time. Again, Sunday, June 9th, 2019, 6 a.m. Tokyo time. Picnic at Hanging Rock. I hope to see you there. Okay, my friends, that's it. So if you have any thoughts or comments in the meantime, please feel free to let me know in the comment section below, as always. Other than that, please be happy and healthy and well, and please, please, please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. So until we meet again, my friends, cheers.